everything that's been going on lately, like, there's just been so much in the world. Like, I was just literally talking to somebody at my place of work about, like, the state of the world with, like, just all the random current, like, political events. Like, I also got my own, like, internal drama. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I'm so close to crazy. I'm right on the edge, just one step away from going insane.
Would you believe that is lyrics from a country album?
Oh, you best believe it. And welcome back, everybody, to the best music podcast on all sides of planet Earth. And the way that we measure that distinction is we travel to Ukraine, we go all the way to Uganda, but we take the long way around. This podcast is called Hey, Listen to This. And it is indeed hosted by two dashingly good-looking men who share the same middle name. I'm the one. I am the only. I'm the one who, in times of trouble, I am asking myself, what are we holding on to? But then I remember the wise words of a little hobbit. And that little hobbit said that there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Ryan James Kearns.
And I'm the one, the only, the wise words from little hobbits I'm aware of are I'm thinking out loud. Matthew James Durzik. And for those of you who don't know what it is that we do here on Hey, Listen to This, it's right there in the title. And what we listen to here on Hey, Listen to This is music albums. Every week, me and Ryan convene to talk about an album of our choice, whether it's an album we like, an album that's currently trending, or an album that fits a certain theme. And we go through the album, listen to the tracks, and talk about them note by note, line by line, lyric by lyric, thing by thing. And whenever we go through these songs, we talk about the things we like, the things we don't like, the things that we think could be improved on, things that we could very well see as just the peak of anything. And at the end of each episode, we give the album a rating out of 10. We recommend another album based on the album we just talked about, and we choose another album to pick for the next episode, and the cycle continues anew and afresh. So last week, Ryan, what did we talk about on Hey, Listen to This?
On last week's episode of Hey, Listen to This, we ended off our celebration of Black History Month by taking a look at a record that was released in 2023 by three men from the land of Scots. Indeed, that album is called Heavy Heavy and was by Young Fathers. And I was really happy to do the review. I mean, full context, that review came out of my camp. But, Young Fathers was, like I alluded to, like in the review, band that, I, always appreciated throughout, my years of, whenever they would drop a new album. But I never really sunk my teeth into them. So, I know you, Matthew, weren't aware of a Scottish group called Young Fathers before last week's review. So, what are your thoughts and feelings about doing Heavy Heavy by Young Fathers last week?
I very much appreciated you pulling that album out, man, because it was very much a bit of a left turn for me. It was music I was not really aware of. I mean, there's probably a few albums I could probably consider in that same category. Maybe like a Graceland by Paul Simon, or something very rootsy and experimental like that. But yeah, I dug it quite a bit. And if you're wondering how much I or Ryan dug it, as always, you can go back and listen to the episode, whether you want to do that when you're done with this episode, or you just want to pause this one and go through that and go down that rabbit hole, if you will. As Ryan would say, make a Sunday out of it.
Oh man, Sundays are fun. Are for the for fun times, man. If you really just want to indulge in a habit, and what about a better habit? Just diving into music. But speak about diving into music. The way that time works, Matthew, is February has officially come to a close for our reviews, and actually, for the calendar, year, month that we're currently talking in right now, and we must progress on into our next review. So yeah, why don't you do the honors and telling the listener, introducing what's next for the Hey Listen to this crew here.
So this week we are starting once again for the second March in a row our dive into Women's History Month, and that means we'll be talking about albums fronted or performed solely by female artists throughout the month of March. We did this last year, and we went down several different rabbit holes, whether we talked about Cyndi Lauper, or Paramore, or Chappell Roan, or Bjork, just to name a few. It was a wild month, and I very much appreciated it for all the chaos that it brought. And that being said, we're going to continue the chaos, sort of, or try to at least, because going from the progressive rap of the Scottish trio Young Fathers, we are going to the polished Nashville sound of one Reba McEntire and her 1996 album entitled What If It's You. Now, for those wondering, what is a Reba McEntire? I know the joke is for stars of this magnitude, it's like, do you live under a rock? Or you out on the street? Do you not own eyes? What is wrong with you? But realistically, even though people might know who Reba McEntire is, they might just know the names. So the details of her story have been sort of lost to time, because even though she's a star, she's not the star that she was. How big of a star? Let me explain. Reba Nell McEntire was born on March 28, 1955, in the town of McAlester, Oklahoma. She grew up on a ranch as the granddaughter of a champion steer roper by the name of John McEntire, and was one of 4 siblings who grew up on a cattle ranch. Her mother, Jacqueline, was an aspiring singer who ended up becoming a school librarian to pay the bills, but she encouraged her children to take up music themselves. And Reba did just that, learning to sing and play the piano and guitar in between going to class and doing chores on the farm, such as castrating bulls, according to Wikipedia. Reba, along with her brother Paik and sister Susie, would eventually form a trio called the Singing McEntires, and would release a single that paid tribute to her grandfather, entitled The Ballad of John McEntire. Now, here's a little guessing game, Ryan. What year was this single pressed by this local label?
Okay, so remind me of the year Reba was born.
1955.
1955, okay. I'm going to say 1968.
Not a bad guess, but that is incorrect. You're off by a few years. It's 1971. So, yeah. Now, that being said, 1971 was the year that Jim Morrison died. 1971 was a year in which the Pittsburgh Pirates were good enough to win a World Series with Roberto Clemente on their roster. That's how long Reba McEntire has been doing this. So, consider that as a testament to how long she's been in the game. Speaking of the game, in November of 1975, following several years of gigging and also completing a bachelor's degree for elementary education at Oklahoma State, Reba would sign a professional recording contract with Mercury and Polygram Records, and her self-titled debut album came out in August of 1977, and for historical context, that is the same year as Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, The Clash by The Clash, and Marquee Moon by Television, which we've covered here on this show. So again, just to give you an idea of how long Reba's been doing this. She would release 5 more albums over the course of the next 6 years before switching to MCA in 1984. And by this time, she had already had 12 top 20 hits on the country charts, including her first 2 number ones, which were entitled Can't Even Get the Blues and You're the First Time I've Thought About Leaving, both off of her 1982 album Unlimited. But starting with 1984's My Kind of Country, Reba became a dominant voice on the country charts, racking up, get this, 24 consecutive top 10 single releases from 1984 through 1992, and 14 of those singles reached number one, which is very, very impressive. What's that? How does Nashville radio work? I'm not listening to that. I'm going to continue reading. And if not for her cover of Vicki Lawrence's The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, stalling out at number 12 in 1992, that streak would have continued on until 1994, because the next 7 singles after that also hit the top 10, including 2 more number 1 songs, which, fun fact, both duets. And at this time, her albums were starting to chart higher and higher on the Billboard 200 themselves, with 3 consecutive albums: It's Your Call from 1992, Read My Mind from 1994, and Starting Over from 1995, all reaching the top 10 on the Billboard 200, with Read My Mind going as high as number 2. So, by this point in the mid-90s, Reba was Reba. She was a mainstream personality, and this is at the time, too, when Nashville, throughout the 90s, and country music was getting big. Like, you know, the big names like Garth Brooks, Brooks and Dunn, who we've covered on the show as well, Wynonna Judd, Faith Hill was starting to get started, Tim McGraw released his debut in 1994, just big names all around, and it was having crossover success to some degree on the pop charts. So, the album we're talking about today, What If It's You, is her 21st studio album, released in 1996 for MCA. And by this point, that mid-90s boom I mentioned was starting to shift more into mainstream acceptance, but that also meant a shift in the sound of country music, because while the early 90s stuff, like stuff from Garth, stuff from Brooks and Dunn, had a lot more honky-tonk to it, and a lot more grit, and a lot more yeehaw, the late 90s stuff wasn't quite as yaldiv, to phrase a term from the internet. It was starting to streamline itself a little bit more and mesh itself with adult contemporary sounds. And by adult contemporary, I don't mean 70s adult contemporary like Barbra Streisand or the Carpenters. I'm talking about 90s adult contemporary, which has drums and guitars and bass, because those were acceptable by this point. So, that's what we're talking about today. And before we dive into the album proper, Ryan, I will throw it to you. What's your experience? How do you know Reba?
You know, me and Reba go way back. Like, you know, in another life, I was actually her granddad who, like, you know, inspired her to be the Reba McEntire that she is today. No, just kidding. Geez. So for anybody that is, like, you know, vaguely aware of, like, you know, and you're probably aware of this fact as well. Like, when it comes to, like, music within this kind of lane, like, you know, thanks to, like, you know, the show here, I've been, like, you know, like, I would say, I don't want to say consistently exposed, but, like, you know, prior, like, before doing the show, like, you know, I've been introduced to, like, you know, different kind of, like, you know, mid-90s, like, you know, and it's kind of, given the context of what you just laid down, calling Reba mid-90s or 90s, like, you know, country act is, like, kind of a backhanded thing, because by the time she hit the 90s, she was already, like, you know, an established act. So I'm just going to use the umbrella term of, like, country music as a whole. Like, when it comes within country music, like, within rare exceptions, like, it's not really anything within my wheelhouse. So my relationship with Miss McEntire basically exists from, like, a couple of facts. Fact 1, I know she's a person. Fact 2, I know that person is a woman. Fact 3, I know she's famous. Fact 4, I know she was on a TV show named Reba. And that's it. Outside of, like, the that show's theme, if you were to ask me, hey, name a Reba McEntire song, I would be like, pass. So, yeah, like, needless to say, like, you know, I mean no disrespect to Reba when I say this, like, you know, it's just something that I've never really took the time to listen to. So, like, you know, that is essentially the purpose of the show. We each introduce each other to, like, artists, like, you know, that is basically not in our wheelhouse, and we just react to it, man. Well, that, and sometimes we just, you know, for better for worse, we decided to dive into Taylor Swift because, like, apparently we want to torture ourselves, and, like, it's actually kind of romantic on our relationship with Taylor Swift. But I digress, Matthew. I'm going to throw it back to you. Are you a little bit more familiar with Reba than myself? Are you her granddad in another life?
I was not her granddad in another life. I don't know if I could steer rope cattle, and I'm pretty sure neither could you, and that's not a knock on either of us. That's just not our thing. But with Reba, it's a little more complicated than just, hey, I listened to 90s country growing up, and that's how I discovered her, because in a sense, yes, that is a little true, whether it was listening to radio on stations like WQXK or Y108 in Pittsburgh. Like that was obviously a time when, Reba was still, big stuff. And she had some singles around that time, like stuff from this album or stuff from 1999, So Good Together, like What Do You Say, that I was kind of familiar with. But as my taste shifted into the 2000s, where I got more into pop, and then more into oldies, and more into classic rock, and then more into some indie stuff towards the end of the decade, I really didn't think a whole lot about country music as a whole, and specifically Reba McEntire. Like, I still knew who Garth Brooks was. Like, I still would listen to Brooks and Dunn every once in a while, but not really Reba. But I knew, like, there was always that library if I ever wanted to reach back to it, because there were plenty of Reba McEntire CDs in my household, and there still are to this day. But roughly around the start of the 2010s, I got back into country music, and I started listening a little bit more to songs that I hadn't heard in a while. And my favorite YouTube music reviewer, Todd in the Shadows, did a video on the song Fancy by Charlie XCX and Iggy Azalea, not necessarily in that order, but at the end of the episodes, he used to have little sound clips at the end of the episodes, or song clips, and he used the song Fancy by Reba McEntire, and I was like, whoa, hold on, you've unlocked something. I have not heard that song, I have not heard that chorus in many a moon. What is this? And so I looked that up, and I was like, oh, okay. And so Fancy became part of my regular rotation, and that had me diving back into her greatest hits catalogs, and all of a sudden she became part of my regular country listening rotation in and of itself. In the interim, I did watch a little bit of her show, which was fine. It's a sitcom. It's a sitcom with a southern accent. You get used to it. But as far as the songs off this album, it became probably another few years until I really started listening to those on classic country stations, one of which I ironically work for now. But that was a bizarre twist, and I was just like, oh, I remember this song, I remember this song, I remember this song. And then, flash forward to this past November, me and my fiance went down to Nashville to visit my aunt and uncle. And while I was down there, I stopped at a little bookstore called McKay's, and that's an insult because that store is huge. And I picked up the album that we're talking about today on CD, because I was like, oh yeah, these songs that I know, and I could get them for the low price of $1 because it's 2025, and who buys CDs anymore? This guy right here. So that's pretty much my somewhat complicated but somewhat streamlined history with Miss Reba McEntire.
I was kind of wondering why this album, that you put up for contention, because, and I'm not gonna, I don't take that with any sort of negative connotation, because a little peek behind the curtain, the music streaming service of choice that I've been utilizing as of late has been Apple Music, because Apple Day keeps the doctor away. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the service, whenever you go to an artist page, if you are looking for hey, where do I go if I want to get into them, they have an essentials album tab. So when I typed in Reba McEntire, pulled up her artist page, and I didn't see this album under the essential albums, I'm like, oh, well, I don't know how to feel. But I was just kind of wondering what why this album, but you kind of you illustrated it, you had a personal relationship, and recently you bought it on CD. So I love stories like that, man. It means, as a fellow music fan nerd, I can absolutely dig that, man.
I appreciate that. And yeah, from a broad perspective look, I would say even Reba fans might look at this and say, wait, why specifically that album? Because if we were talking about any Reba album from 1984 up through, I would say 2001, they pretty much follow a pretty standard format. Because, not to spoil a whole lot with what we're about to talk about, but Reba McEntire is not necessarily a singer-songwriter. She is a singer who sings the songs of songwriters, and this is Nashville, and this is country music, so yeah, if you're expecting something along the lines of Idiot Wind or Sunglasses, just to name a couple songs we talked about, maybe not this time around, but at the same time, there may be some depth and stuff to discuss within the lyrics that we are going to talk about. And I say we get right into it and talk about the 10 tracks we have ready to go for What If It's You. And Ryan, I'm going to throw it to you for track number 1 off of this album, and that is How Was I to Know?
All right, so yeah, with how was I to know? The main thing that I always appreciate about country music as a whole, it's the storytelling. So what's the story with How Was I to Know, Matt?
The story with How Was I to Know is basically Reba is coming out of a relationship, and she's recollecting that, hey, I thought this was going to be brutal. I thought this was going to suck. I thought I was going to be lost and lonely without you. And turns out, nah, I'm good. I'm a strong, independent woman who don't need no man.
And, with that kind of message, you really kind of get that with Reba's voice. And, I hate to say it, dude, that's the main thing I liked about the track. Because, her voice is so emotive and powerful. And, for those of you who, you've often, pointed out for the fact that, I tend to be very particular when it comes to vocal stuff within our show. So, but spoiler alert, head to toe throughout this whole album, Reba's voice is just there's not a bad performance in there whatsoever. But can you guess what my problem with this track is? What holds it back?
That's interesting. I'm not sure what would be holding it back. I'm going to assume it has to do with the lyrics and perhaps the lack of depth.
Not exactly. The lyrics are perfectly fine. One of the lyrical highlights that I had actually in the track was swept up inside a whirlwind. I just couldn't see the end till you were gone. So the way that Reba sings all these bars, everything's very emotive. You can really sink your teeth into it. It's what really holds this track back, and it's often my criticism of music within this style is, now take this with a grain of salt. I want you to bear with me, but don't make those bear noises like you did earlier. But it's very much boilerplate country music from this era. And that's a byproduct of the scene at the time, because the Nashville machine was pumping out music. So that's very much a byproduct of its time, but it's a byproduct that I don't enjoy. I'm just not a fan of it, man. But I will say though, the guitar solo was pretty cool. And I do like the little moments where you get like those guitar flares in the second verse. And like the chorus, I did enjoy the chorus. You get a very strong sense of melody here. Great emotive performance from Reba. But yeah, like, you have anything to add about how was that to know before we move on to the fear of being alone?
Yeah. First of all, I did notice that this is very boilerplate, especially for the mid-90s. As I mentioned earlier, the Nashville sound was becoming less cowboy and more adult, more mass audience. Like, they probably realized that, hey, now that, the typical suburban mom from, Massapequa or, some, businessman from San Jose is probably going to start listening to this stuff. Maybe we should lasso in the lassoing, if you know what I mean. We should probably cut down on the corn and make this a little bit more streamlined. And that's what they've done here. And I noticed that from Jump Street, because the first guitar you hear is not a steel guitar. That is very much an electric guitar playing something that you can almost confuse for Gin Blossoms. Like, that's how rock oriented it is. That being said, though, I understand where you're coming from with it being boilerplate, but I don't mind that. Again, I was raised on this, so I'm not as offended by the boilerplateness, at least not with this song, as it was. And I did like the guitar solo as well. And I also kind of liked how the guitars, the electric guitar meshed with the steel guitar that eventually does make an appearance throughout the song. You're right about Reba, though, man. She dominates this song. She dominates with a powerful voice. And not only that, but on the chorus particularly, the way that she harmonizes with her backup singers and or herself just sounds so good. And not surprisingly, this was released as a single, and it made its way up to number one because it's Reba, of course. It was the 90s, of course. And it was national radio, of course. And there's a lot of elements in here that seem very streamlined. But at the same time, you mentioned your lyrical highlight. I'll mention mine, which was what I was so afraid of turned out to be my freedom in disguise. Like, that's just a great line, man. Like, that's very much a powerful, hey, maybe this is going to be all right after all. And I very much dug that. So I'm going to ask you, Ryan, did this song land in my top three?
I'm going to say no, because the way that you were discussing it, like you said, like, hey, yeah, you got some good stuff here. I agree with your criticisms here. And you didn't really have that much of a gushing over it. So I'm going to say it didn't land in your top three.
And that is a very good analysis by you, sort of dissecting what I was going for and understanding what I was trying to say. It's my second favorite song on the whole album.
Oh my goodness! I completely screwed that, man. Oh man. Okay. So what's the gamut for you? Because this didn't land in a top spot for me, but what cards are you holding for your review here, man?
Not many cards. I have a top three, and that's it. I got a top three, and that's it for this review.
Okay. You want to hear something crazy?
You have I don't know what you have.
Do you want me to reveal it, or do you want me to just keep my cards, my guns drawn, and then as we progress in the review, I will let the review flower, blossom on its own.
Let's go with the wild card. Let's go with you holding your cards until they are revealed, because the last time I remember you doing this was for the Wiz Khalifa interview, and even though that left me with a bad taste in my mouth, I'm willing to try that road again. So let's go with the mystery box here. Let's hold the cards where they are for now.
All right, man. So, I thought about that, and I'm like, yeah, that was not a good review. For me as well, but I mean, it was fun, just always doing reviews with you, man. But you think we're ready to shift on into the next track, which is the Fear of Being Alone?
I am very much ready to talk about the Fear of Being Alone, and here we get a song that's a bit more up tempo. How Was I to Know was very much steady tempo, but this one's a lot faster. Well, maybe not a lot faster, but faster enough. And This one is very much a step back chronologically when talking about love, because with How Was I to Know being a song about a breakup and a woman experiencing freedom from that, this is the stage of going out on a date with someone after a breakup, after getting burned. And first of all, I just love that as a premise for a song. I just love the idea of, hey, here we are, two lovers out on a date. We've both been with bad relationships before, and we got that in common. But at the same time, because of the burning, Reba is thinking to herself, hey, I know what we want again, but slow your roll. Slow down. Park the car. Even if it's down by the river, park the car. And so the way that it all concludes on the chorus, which again is just another banger of a chorus, the lyric going, you may think you do, but you don't. It's just the fear of being alone. Because Reba's saying, listen, you think that you love me, but you're just having a good night. I'm having a good night, but that's all it is right now. It's a good night. It's a real good night. And the way that the vocals go on the chorus, where it just da 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 da. For some reason, like musically speaking, and I know this is streamlined, boilerplate country. Like this is, they write the songs, someone else sings them. It's just so good. And it works so well because not only is Reba a convincing voice for a subject like this, because if you had given this to a younger singer or a less experienced singer, it may not come across as believable. But with Reba, it very much is believable. Not just because she at the time was on her second marriage, but just because she's seen it all, she's done it all, and this was her 21st album. But yeah, just the way that the guitars sound and the drums, my God, the drums. Especially with the little fill at the end of the final verse, where just the like, I know it's country, but you're not going to get that in many country songs, so I dug that very much. The voice is good, the harmonies are good, the instruments are good. This is just a really good song, deserving of being a number one hit. And speaking of number one, it's my favorite song on the record.
I was hoping that was going to be the case because, like, the way that you were talking about this song versus the How Was I to Know track, I was just like, man, you're really hyping this track up. It's going to be your number one. And, like, I agree with you. I do like the messaging of the track, and specifically in the chorus, because, like, whenever, like, they don't say the thing that in the chorus where it's just they're saying, so don't say the word, not the one we both heard too much. You may think you do, but you don't. It's just a fear of being alone. Like, they don't say the thing, but the thing is saying, hey, I love you. Like, and I very much appreciate that. And I will say, you made the comment about the boilerplate country thing that I brought up with the previous track, and kind of maybe tried to apply it here with the fear of being alone. I will say the instrumentation here, I did like it more so than How Was I to Know, and it's because of just, like, specific things within the track, like the way that the whole track opens with that opening lick, and it comes back in several spots in the song, like almost as like an interlude mechanism. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. And then the instrumentation in the second verse where it includes the fiddle, like, I did dig that. And I also like that dun 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 dun, like that vocal, like, moment in the chorus. I did appreciate that, and I also very much appreciated how the instrumentation mirrored that. So, like, that's always a treat for my ears. And I agree with you, Reba really does sound very solid here. And it's funny that, think about tracks like this, and I think about tracks like off of the Barty Strange album that we reviewed, where he was literally talking about life. And there's something rewarding where someone who has gone through the things that they're singing about will bring a certain edge to certain songs. And, like, with Reba going through her second marriage at this point, like, yeah, she probably can bring, like, some personal experience to a song like this. So, yeah, good song all around. Putting it in the good song bucket, so not a top track, not a bottom track, but it goes in the good song bucket. I do appreciate what the song's bringing to the table.
All right, so far I've revealed 2 of my top 3, and you not have revealed anything. So this is gonna be a wild review. I kind of dig it. But to your point about the fact that Reba could, sing what she was talking about, she did not write this song. She did not write a single lyric on this, which, in a sense, kind of makes that, like, if you're going to be a snob about it, you might say, oh, she's just reading some lyrics that somebody else wrote. She can't experience that. But on the other hand, what is music and what is art sometimes but a way of method acting? Somebody else wrote the script, now you play the part, and she plays it quite well here. This song, for the record, was written by 2 dudes, Walt Aldridge and Bruce Miller. Names that you are probably not aware of, and I'm barely aware of after just reading those myself. So, but to their credit, they wrote a very good song, and Reba, to her immense credit, deserves a lot of credit for being able to sing passionately the lyrics of others, because, again, she probably read them and said, you know what? I get this. I understand this, and let's make a good song. And they did. Now, the question is, did they do the same thing with What If It's You, the title track from this album? Ryan, I will let you be the first to give your opinion on this one.
I will find out if it is you, man. One thing I did mark, clock right out of the gate here, is we get a change up in instrumentation. We get a piano ballad here, and it's pretty tender. So again, we're going away from boilerplate country. We're actually incorporating different instruments. So that's a good step. And honestly, can you guess what my favorite thing about this track is?
Her voice.
Yeah, and that's nothing to slam this track whatsoever. But when you have Reba's voice, it kind of dominates pretty well. She sounds so sincere, and she sounds amazing. And I know, we've already discussed the fact that other people wrote these songs, but a lot of these songs are kind of universal, and it's amazing how somebody wrote this song and she's singing a song like this, and she's singing it for an audience who can relate to moments like this. So just an interesting thing that I always appreciate about music. And just another thing I want to zoom in on with her, because I can gush about her voice all day long, but one thing I did appreciate, and I don't know if you felt the same way about this, is the way that she just lingers on certain words. It's just pure, honestly, candy to my ears. At the end of phrases where she's like, "What if it's you?" And the way that her vocal, fluctuates. It's just so good, dude. Just put that in my ears every day, and my anxieties will go down by maybe 10%.
I very much appreciate that, man. I very much appreciate that. That being said, though, I find it very fascinating. This is why I love doing reviews like this with you, because what you distinguish as getting away from boilerplate country, I'm thinking, oh, no. We are stacking boilerplates. We are filling the dish rack with boilerplates, because this is very much at least stylistically, I'll say that. Stylistically, this is very much a ballad that you would expect on a country album. I do agree that piano is not your typical country instrument, especially not one that drives a ballad like this. But by the mid-90s, these were probably on half of every album, particularly by female artists, and probably some male ones as well. That being said, though, that is not a bad thing, because I do like this song. Here, she congratulates a friend on finding their mate, but she realizes, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I should be that mate. Maybe I should be that person. Or maybe, more specifically, you are the person for me. So I'm glad you're happy, but I should be happy with you. And again, very good premise for a song. If I'm going to be completely honest, though, I don't feel like the lyrics to this one are as memorable as The Fear of Being Alone or How Was I to Know. Because once you get past that first verse, you kind of get what the song's about. The rest of the song pretty much just kind of floats on. It floats on grandiosely and very wonderfully. I agree. Reba's voice on this track is probably one of, if not her best performances on the entire album, especially for a ballad like this. And the way that she harmonizes once again on the chorus is just exquisite. I will note that the key change towards the end of the song, I rated at 8.1 on the Bo Burnham scale. But very much this track does rule, and it was tough. It was very tough for me between this song and another one. But if I had to go with my gut, and I do, this track falls into cut track territory. Like, this is easily, like, I would put this at like a 4, but just this being in my top 3.
So, well, like a couple other notes I want to throw at you. I agree with you wholeheartedly about the lyric. Well, I mean, I don't want to say wholeheartedly. Maybe that's an inaccurate way. Like, I did have the opening lyrics as a highlight for me, where she's singing, "I got something to tell you that I just can't say, so I'm writing it down in case maybe someday our lives take a turn down a road we can't see right now." So, like, I did appreciate that. It's very much like invoking that storyteller aspect, and the lyrics overall were pretty solid. But I also agree with you that the song does kind of vamp on the chorus for, like, after that first verse. Like, you basically know what you're getting into. Like, it's not like separate. It's not making each new chorus or anything like, memorable or like, different. But I think with me, what held this track, what made this track, I don't want to say stand out, but not go into like a bottom track or any kind of territory, is just the way that Reba's voice sounds. And in music discussions, I often talk about, like, are the lyrics carrying the weight? Is the instrumentation carrying the weight? But when this track here, Reba's voice is very much carrying that weight, boy, and it's just so good. So I wouldn't put this as a cut track for me. I'm putting this as a kind of a mid to good song bucket. Like, it's sitting on that fence there, man.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. I understand because, again, if you're not, if you're just kind of letting the melody take you away, this is a great song, but that's kind of all it does. All it does is really just produce, a very nice melody and a very kind of run-of-the-mill lyrical piece. But again, that's not to take away from Reba's performance or the instrumentation, really, because the piano sounds good, drums sound good, everything sounds good. It just doesn't have that little extra kick for me to push it into the top 3. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the title track.
All right, man. So I think we tackled the title track pretty effectively, and I think we're ready to get into the penultimate track on side A of this record here. You like what I did there, man? You were like, wait, penultimate track? Ryan, did you have a stroke? No, I'm very much healthy in this moment. But for the new listener who isn't aware of what the track is, it's called "I'd Rather Ride Around with You," and I'll let you take the floor on this one, man.
Thank you, sir. And that was some shady stuff there, but I very much appreciate that. With the that's it's not a smelling salt; it's a hearing salt. It's just like, hey, by the way, wake up. But no, this track, funny enough, this is the 4th straight song on this album that was released as a single, and that's it. So this album is, from a marketing standpoint, incredibly front-loaded. Like, it has all 4 singles up front, and I was kind of surprised by that, because even like the biggest country albums I could think of don't do that. Like, a couple of the tracks usually find their way in the back half of the record that end up becoming the biggest hits, but that's a different discussion for a different day. As far as I'd rather ride around with you, we go back to a driving tempo, pun fully intended. And the story of this song is how it's this is just a very bizarre one where Reba decides, hey, instead of being part of this wedding, which I'm sure took several months to plan and several $1,000s to put together, I'm just gonna go for a joyride out of town and hang out with this guy I like. It's like, oh, all right. Now, that being said, I'll start with the positives about this song. The drums sound great again. Reba's voice sounds great. It has a very up-tempo, polished feel that I can appreciate. That being said, though, the couple of nitpicks I have about the song, first of all, it's very wordy. It's very, very wordy. And it feels like there's a couple moments, particularly on the verses, which are, I would say, 90% of the song, where she's just trying to fit a, paragraph into a sentence, and it sounds like it. And I'm not sure if that was her call or the songwriter's call to make that move, but it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but at the same time, it just feels like some of it's a little bit forced. For the record, the writer of I'd Rather Ride Around With You, Mark D. Sanders and Tim Nichols. And they come up with a very solid song here with that, but again, it just feels like it's wordy at times. And speaking of the words, guess what my other nitpick about this song is?
Wow. I couldn't guess because, I do have another nitpick about the song that I don't think it's going to be the same nitpick that you do. And, for full disclosure, I agree. The song is very wordy, and it's one of my nitpicks. I'm going to say, for the sake of actually adding content here, it's the fact that Reba's voice doesn't sound nearly as impactful.
That isn't the nitpick, but you're not wrong about that. I do agree that her voice, while it is good, is more or less there on the song. It's not as powerful as it has been on the prior 3 tracks. So if that was your observation and your other nitpick, I very much appreciate that, which it may not be. We'll save that for when you go. But yeah, my other nitpick is in the words themselves. She's talking about how, this couple is rich out the wazoo. They're going to go to Hawaii for their honeymoon. And, they can afford all this stuff. And that's all nice and everything. And maybe she'll get married someday. But she'd rather ride around with this guy. And what bothers me about this is that I perfectly understand that sometimes you'd rather abandon all plans and just go for a drive. I like driving, but it's not really mentioned in the song. You're kind of supposed to know that the idea of driving around, giddy up and go away from this scenario is supposed to be fun. But she never really mentions that. She just kind of bitches about the wedding and bitches about the couple and bitches about, how maybe she's ready or maybe she's not ready. Never really giving a reason why going for a joyride away from a wedding would be a good idea. And again, we're supposed to imply that. We're supposed to inference that ourselves, which I don't mind, but at the same time I do because, let me just ask you a question, Ryan, a personal question, if you will, because I was at your wedding. I was your best man. How would you have felt if instead of showing up to your wedding, I would have gone for a joyride roughly about 25 miles from town?
Well, considering that you had the responsibility of holding my wedding bands, I would have been pissed.
As you should have been. As you should have been. And I'm sure one of your questions would have been, hey, do you have a really good reason to have done this? And I'm pretty sure the reason I would have tried to give, I didn't do this for the record, let me just throw that disclaimer out there, but I'm sure the reason I would have come up with, it might have been the worst reason imaginable, but it still would have been a reason. Reba doesn't even give you that on this song. Or more specifically, the songwriters don't give Reba that on this song. So it just kind of irked me. Not so much that I'm going to put this track in a bottom category, because, again, the old adage, this song sounds great if you're not paying attention. Or I would say it sounds good if you're not paying attention. I'm putting this in the good song bucket. But yeah, as soon as you start paying attention, it's like, hold on, time out, time. But again, those are merely nitpicks. If it's on the radio, I'll dig it. But yeah.
After hearing your dissection about this track, dude, I feel a lot better about my dissection. Like, I felt like I was going to be picking on this track, but you kind of added some fuel to my fire. But, like, I already illustrated the fact that I really felt like there were so many words here. Like, and speaking of somebody who tends to like wordy songs, a la see our Ganga Use review and see us have a spirited discussion about one of the tracks in there. However, it just seems like you put it best where you said that she's trying to fit a paragraph into a sentence, and the song just feels disjointed as a result. So I'm gonna leave that descriptor as, because you nailed it right on the head, man. So gonna go with a positive, and then gonna go with another negative to end off my discussion about the track, though. The instrumentation's fine, and it's even good at some spots. Like, I do appreciate the lick that you hear at the start of the track and how it comes back at spots. Like, that was a trope that was executed with the fear of being alone, so I did very much appreciate that. And the performances in the chorus and the verses were, honestly kind of decent, but still not as impactful as what we've seen that Reba can do with this record here so far. And also the other nitpick that I had, and I kind of hinted at it, but I didn't really go into it when you were giving your overview of the track, is the fact that the halftime sections that you get, or the double time sections that you get within the track, where things like they're trying to make it seem like, oh hey, we're letting go of the wheel and we don't care. Like, it just felt weird, and just, it wasn't needed. It felt awkward. It wasn't executed effectively at all. So yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the lyrics as a concept. There wasn't really a lyrical highlight, though. So, yeah. We're in a bottom track territory, man. With I'd rather ride around with you. And it is my second least favorite track off the whole record.
Ooh. All right. We are getting spicy with this. So, it's funny you say that, because couple notes. Number one, this track did become a single, as I mentioned, and went all the way to number 2 on the charts. So apparently the country listening audience of 1996 found something that we did not. But I kind of get it. It's a very poppy track. But at the same time, I kind of had the same feeling about this song that I had about a song we talked about from the Winona review, which was She Is His Only Need. And I didn't hate that song either, but I was left more confused by it, and confused as to why it was a single. Like, something about it was off. Something about it wasn't very polished. And something just felt, like you said, awkward. It felt awkward. And again, for an industry like Music Row in Nashville, that kind of awkward stuff just doesn't cut it 99% of the time. So how this one slipped through the cracks, I don't know. Again, I kind of know, because I do kind of appreciate the track. And it sounds fine. But again, in retrospect, it's definitely not one of my favorite Reba tracks, and it's definitely not one of my favorite tracks off this whole album.
To put it in a very basic kind of standpoint, to use your own words to supplement this, it's fine if you aren't paying attention, but for the purposes here of this review here, we're very much paying attention. The show's fucking called Hey, Listen to This. But yeah, closing off side A of the record, though, we have the track It Don't Matter. And for me, the song was mostly fine. It was a decent way to close off side A. I mean, I don't think Reba and the Nashville Machine was really thinking about track sequencing within this record. But yeah, it was a decent way to close off side A. We don't have boilerplate country instrumentation here with It Don't Matter. I actually appreciate what was going on with the jangly acoustic guitar strumming we hear at the start. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. And Reba's back to delivering a solid performance here. Nothing really over the top, but it's good. And, like, compared to what we heard with I'd Rather Ride Around With You, like, we're getting back into more of her lane, her specialty. And one of the things I really did appreciate about the track is the repetition of the phrase, "It doesn't matter." That's basically sprinkled throughout the whole track. So I thought that was pretty cool. And also another thing that I did find that was pretty cool was the cadence at the end of the chorus, where it seems like, things are kind of circling around. And it just lands at a pretty good spot. So, yeah. I mean, I don't really have much else to say about It Don't Matter. It's a mid to good song bucket track for me. Like, it's fine, man. Like, are you higher on this track than me, or are you, like, kind of the same vibes?
I might be a hair higher, but not much. Like, I would consider this in the good song bucket because you really kind of said it. It's not super country, which I did notice myself. Like, even for as boilerplate as some ballads could be, like, there were a couple songs in the early 90s that sounded like this, but this was not like a very constant, very ubiquitous sound in country. It definitely has a bit more of a almost world music type thing. Like, if Enya went country, I guess would be a comparison for lack of a better terminology. And you talk about Reba's performance. I thought it was pretty good too. I was surprised to hear her sing about subject matter that was as dismissive and dejected as this, because It Don't Matter is not only the title of the song, it's pretty much the premise of the song, where Reba's realizing that her and her significant other have all these different things, including but not limited to brand new Cherokee, 2-car garage, everything they wanted, nice little house on a quiet little street, etc., etc. So, yeah, they have all these things, but it doesn't matter if they're not in love, and Reba's realizing that her significant other does not love her anymore. It's a very dejected subject, and it's weird to hear her sound that dejected, because Reba's voice is so big, and when it's happy, it's very jovial, that to hear her deliver such a plain-spoken vocal on this was kind of impressive. Not impressive in a technical way, but impressive in a philosophical way. Like, oh, this is a sad song, and a very, oh well, deal with the pain type of song. Hide the pain if you can. Very numb the pain. And she kind of sounds like she's numbing the pain. So I give her marks for that, but I can't really elevate the song to much higher than a solid piece of song work on the record, because that's what it is. It's a fine, solid album track. I put in the good song bucket, but if you're not going to seek the song out, I don't blame you.
Well, I'm going to give you kudos for kind of highlighting the fact that, like, Reba's doing a different kind of vocal here. So, like, and it takes a skilled vocalist to portray different kind of emotions, because you can always go for, like, that strong, independent woman, and I don't need no man, or, like, I'd rather ride along with you, or, like, that love, like, stricken, like, femme fatale, like, you can always do that, but in order to, like, really, separate yourself, like, you got to be able to, like, change it up every once in a while. So, yeah, kudos to you for pointing it out. It actually kind of makes me appreciate the track just a hair more. So, kudos, man. Kudos.
I appreciate that. But we have, as you mentioned, Ryan, hit the end of side A. So I guess this is the point where you would have a question for me, isn't it?
True. Are you saying that you have a question for me, or do you want me to ask the question?
You know what? I'm going to ask the question this time. I'll ask the question this time, because you're always asking me, so I will do the honor and ask you the question. If our listeners, or anybody who is listening to this episode, if they're a first-time listener by chance, is enjoying what they're hearing and wants to do something about it, whether they want to share our content, find more of our content, or anything in the vicinity of our content, Ryan, what can they do?
So, if they want to really just, well, if they want to find our content, well, you know, you found it. You are in a podcasting platform of your choice, and you can scroll through it, and you can find different albums. Like, there might be a slight chance of, like, this might be your very first episode of Hey Listen to This. So as you can see, as you're scrolling through, as you're listening to my voice, you can see that we've basically covered the gamut. So, like, do yourself a favor, make a playlist, and be like, oh, hey, yeah, I know that album. I know that album. What's this band Toledo that, like, they covered? Oh, I'm gonna listen to that. Maybe check out that, and, like, expand your musical horizons and listen to our dissections about tracks. It's always a fun time. And if you want to help encourage us to, like, really keep on keeping on, one, literally just diving into her back catalog is the best way for you to do so, because it helps show the algorithmic gods that we're worthy of, like, being boosted in the algorithm. And also, in terms of, like, outside of, like, just purely listening to our episodes, if you know somebody that could really, like, appreciate what we're doing here on Hey Listen to This, like, feel free to share it with your friends, or, hey, just blankly just share it on social media. And for those of you who are unaware of what social media platforms that we are currently on, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Tagline for all those platforms is ttheylisten. And also, like, a couple other things you could do to help the show grow is, if any of the platforms that you're currently using to listen to us on allow you to leave a positive review, please do so. That goes a long way. And also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, like everyone's favorite YouTuber says, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and throw a comment down below what you think about the review. So, oh man, that made me want to vomit saying that. But anyways, yeah, just do all those things. And if you are looking to, like, reach out to us directly, but if you do not know us personally, we do have an email box, ttheylisten@gmail.com. We've done listener requests in the past, and we would like to do them again in the future. So, yeah, that's a few ways that they can help find our content, support the content, share it with friends, and just continue on trying to enjoy life here in the year of our Lord 2026. And, speaking about enjoying life here in 2026, as one music appreciator to another, I very much appreciate the fact that we are able to do this show week in and week out. It's always a highlight for me. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye with music, but it's always a fun time just to sit down and dissect music with one another, man. And you're one hell of a co-host, man, and I wouldn't do it with anybody else.
I wholeheartedly agree, man. Again, I appreciate the stuff we do week in, week out, and just having fun with it. Because, again, we've run the gamut, as you mentioned. We're talking about Reba this week. We talked about Young Fathers last week. We talked about Toledo. We've talked about Taylor Swift. We've talked about Miles Davis a couple times. We've gone over the place here on Hey Listen to This. And again, for those who have listened so far to our wildness for one or two or all episodes, if you're a hardcore stan, they call that anymore? Anyways, if you are someone who's listened to our show in the past, thank you again. We're just two dudes who love talking about music. We're not part of any major podcasting network. We're not, sponsored by anybody with a major law firm or major telephone service. In fact, we are not a podcast that if you call right now, you'll be entitled to financial compensation. We're just two dudes who love to talk about music. So that being said, I am ready to talk about music some more, Ryan, if you are, and we are going to the back half of Reba's 1996 album, What If It's You? And the first track off of that is State of Grace. And I'll go ahead and kick things off. So, following It Don't Matter being more of a ballad, like we got with the title track, State of Grace goes right back in up-tempo mode. And the start of the track is fine, the instrumentation is good, but what really got me about this song was the first verse, because here it tells the story of Grace, get it, who decides to leave her day job at Walmart after 13 years because, hey, There's a couple of new lines on her face, and she realizes, hey, maybe there's still some life left within me, and I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to blow this popsicle stand and make my way out into the world and see what's out there. And I kind of love that premise, number one, just on its own. But I also love how it's played because it's a very punny type of opening part to the song where you have two new lines open her eyes and suddenly it hit her. She still had the wings to fly. Attention late night shoppers. A 2-for-1 on broken chains. That's the state of grace. It's the weak made strong. It's finding what you're missing was right there all along. It's just so cheesy and so corny, and I love it because it just goes for the, hey, there's two lines on her face because, like grocery lines. And then when they do the effect of her speaking over the loudspeaker, over the intercom system, love that. That was, like, to me, the most innovative, creative part of this entire record was just thrown out there because I was like, oh, wow, they are doing something with this. And the chorus itself is very nice because, once again, Reba's vocals are powerful. The harmonies are powerful. And I will say that listening to enough Reba, I was able to pick out that chorus as kind of similar to a prior hit she had called The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. But that's not a bad thing because that song was good. And I think this song is good too. Then you get to the second verse, which talks about her buying a camper, tearing up her time card, and then deciding, hey, I want to go to New York City, and I also want to go to the desert. It's like, oh, using a camper to go from New York City to the desert. Can you tell this was made in 1996? I think you can. So, Ryan, let me ask you this. What nitpicks do you think I have about this song?
I'm not just saying this, and I'm not spoiling anything. I really can't think of any nitpicks, man.
You guessed correctly. I don't have any nitpicks about this song. It's my third favorite song of the whole album. We have completed my top 3.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. I very much appreciated that rug pull, man. You're getting very good at that, man.
I've been doing some time in the gym.
Oh, man. Just pulling rugs, man. But, yeah, so I kind of hinted at the fact that I might appreciate this track, and I do. It's a very solid way to kick off side B of the record. I absolutely agree with you. Like, the biggest thing that this track is bringing to the table, the story of an everyday working woman breaking out of the norm. Like, that opening verse was just so good. And that's the main thing that country music should be bringing to the table, where it's telling you a story. And the story here is pretty, cut and dry. Like, it's not hiding behind anything. You don't need thesaurus to understand, what that Spaniard with a lanyard is, filling up your anvil with. But, yeah, it's just really good, very rewarding. It's a very good song. A very, very good set of lyrics. And I agree with you as well that attention late night shoppers, a 2-for-1 on broken chains, that was a very nice touch, especially with the way that they were able to distort her voice like you illustrated. So again, that I'm in agreement with you. And also, one of the things I very much appreciated about this track is the fact that I very much criticize boilerplate country music. And spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody who identifies it as anything in between, we're going to get to that here relatively soon with a couple of tracks coming up. But here, you don't get boilerplate country music. And I also did appreciate the little moments in the instrumentation. I thought they were pretty decent, like the little guitar licks in the chorus, or the downbeat hits during the section where they're talking about her ripping up the time clock. I thought those were pretty noteworthy, and I very much appreciated that. And Reba is very much doing a very good job vocally, and the lyrics, again, I can't stress it enough. The lyrics are great, the vocals are great, the instrumentation, while not great, it's still good. And yeah, the only other thing I gotta say about the track, only note I have, is I did have a lyrical highlight here. It's when Reba's singing, Grace knew when she looked up there wouldn't be a sky. And I was just envisioning, like, working at a Walmart where I know, like, some Walmarts have skylights, but, like, just a concept of, like, working 9 to 5 in a job whatsoever, and you look up, you don't see a sky, you just see a wall. So, like, I thought that was pretty clever. So, where does State of Grace land within the spectrum of this album? Well, I'm happy to report, Matthew, I do have good tracks. I have top tracks in this review. And with State of Grace, it is easily my favorite track off the whole record.
Yes. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about this one because I feel like this is a song where if an untrained ear was going to listen to this and think, oh, well, that's just cheesy, that's just corny. And I wasn't sure if you were going to fall in that category, but I'm so happy you didn't because this track is very much a underrated gem. Like this, I was kind of surprised this wasn't released as a single. I mean, granted, compared to I'd Rather Ride Around With You and The Fear of Being Alone being that same sort of speed and timbre. Not your dog timbre, but the same timbre. I kind of maybe think that they were thinking, okay, they probably preferred I'd Rather Ride Around With You compared to State of Grace. Do I think that? No, but not my decision. I'm not the one making millions of dollars in Nashville, but I'm glad you and I are on the same page because this song is very clever. It's sharp. It's a wonderful performance. And yeah, it's not super boilerplate. I do agree with you on that. But as you mentioned, those are coming, and we are nearing the finish line on What If It's You. So not only are we getting close to the end, we're getting close to crazy, Ryan.
Okay, so yeah, with Close to Crazy, I wondered why I don't like songs like this. And you know what, something, Matthew? You know what, something I got to tell you?
What do you got to tell me, Ryan?
I figured it out.
Oh, do tell.
So, because, yeah, I just, on one hand, I can't hate a song that is just slow. Because there's plenty enough examples that I could probably draw from, and you could probably draw from as well. Like, slow songs within the catalog that we've covered here so far that I do like. And I also like songs that are very stripped back and very, very much are focused on human emotion. The issue that I have with this song, can you guess what it is?
I would say this can go a few different ways, but I'm going to say it has to do with the lyrics, or in my personal opinion, and I'll get into it, the lack thereof.
Incorrect.
Oh.
I actually felt the lyrics were really good. So, take that as you will. Take that with a grain of salt. The issue that I have with this song is the production, the instrumentation, the boilerplate country bullshit that it is such a nothing burger when the song is asking for something that connects with it. And like, or they just want, like the song is just asking for the production to just be something bigger. Like, it's just, if I were to go into Chat GPT and be like, hey, give me 90s country ballad stuff, and that would be the instrumentation that it would produce. Now, I'm not an idiot. I went to college. But I will say, like, of course I know Chat GPT did not exist at the time of the inception of the song. I don't care. But, like, my critique is the fact that it's just, the production is so run-of-the-mill, and it creates for a little bit of, I don't want to say a disconnect. It just, if that minor detail would have been fixed, the song would have been so much better. But as a result, this song just drags. Like, the parts where Reba's singing I'm so close to crazy, right on the edge, I'm like, girl, I'm right there with you listening to the song, man. Just one step away from going insane, but I'm not there yet. Like, I really get that. I really get that. So, like, no, it just drags and drags and drags. And it's just, it's so mind-numbingly, and I almost wanted to throw up at points. Like, just to tell you, like, my hatred for the song. But I will give the song credit where it's due, because I'm a reasonable man. Reba's doing a solid job with her performance, and lyrics are really good. I did appreciate the bars throughout the song, but especially the part where she's talking, this afternoon I caught myself reliving how it used to be at a table for two, just you and me, but talking to an empty chair and laughing right out loud. Like, that's such haunting imagery. So, like, lyrics are good, but the fact of the song structure being so drawn out and the production not doing enough to just complete that. The best thing I can say is, I don't know, like, imagine if you are having lunch and you are like, hey, I want some soup. I want to have some tomato soup. What goes well with tomato soup, sandwich wise, in your brain? What do you think of first thing?
Grilled cheese.
So instead of having a grilled cheese, you stick you get a burrito and you stick it in there. Like, it just doesn't work, man. Or yeah, no, I'm sticking with the burrito. Like, it just doesn't line up. Like, while like some elements might work, it just doesn't complete the package, and therefore the song is a grilled cheese. It is a tomato soup with a grilled burrito in it. It's just completely awkward. I mean, before I get my official rating, what do you have to say for Close to Crazy, man?
I'm sure you already did give your official rating, but I'll let you have the official say in a little bit here. Funny enough, my thoughts are considerably different. I will say the overall conclusion that I get from this song is the same as yours, which is that it's very boilerplate, and this is probably the most boilerplate song on the whole album, if I'm being honest. But to me, what sets it back from being anything special, to me, is the lyrics. And I thought the lyrics were fine, but at the same time, and granted, juxtaposition does have a bit of a dirty role in this, because coming off of the cleverness of State of Grace, for this song to be next is just kind of unfair to this song, because this song is not clever, really. I mean, I will give you that second verse where she talks about sitting at the table and having that conversation with someone who's not there. That is clever. But I think, to your point about the production being as slovenly and just drawn out as it is, it does kind of force you to not listen, in a sense. I didn't think the production was bad at all. I thought the piano was fine. I thought Reba's voice was very good. And the way that on the chorus, yet lines like, but this close to crazy is far from over you. Like, that's such a country music line. Like, that's been used in countless songs before this and countless after. It's a very bait and switch type of line. I appreciate that for what it was. But overall, like, again, compared to State of Grace, compared to The Fear of Being Alone, I just thought these lyrics were bland and very, very standard. So I didn't hate it enough to consider it a bottom track, because I already spoiled the fact that I don't have a bottom track on this album. But this is very much an album track for me. Like, I could take or leave this song, honestly. If I'm listening to the album proper, I'll listen to it fine, no problems. But it's not a song I'm going to seek out individually.
Me too, man. And for those of you who are completely oblivious to the fact of what I was putting down, this is the bottom track for me. And like, it's just interesting that you criticized the lyrics, but yet I thought that they were pretty good. So, and I'm looking over some of the lyrics as well, like a little closer. Like, I'm a broken soul who's close to breaking down. Like, yeah, I kind of see what you're talking about. Like, but I did appreciate what the song was going for in that regard. But yeah, just yeah, I just don't want to talk about this song ever again. And not that it's I definitely have freaked out over piss poor songs before. Much harder. I went much harder in the paint in previous reviews, but still. For lack of a better segue, and for the importance of not vamping, I think we just move on into the next track here, and I'm gonna need a moment to calm down after Close to Crazy, so I'm gonna have you take the next one, which is She's Calling It Love.
Yes, I will gladly give you some respite, good soldier. So She's Calling It Love is the next track on this album, and I will say the one takeaway, literally, quite honestly, from Close to Crazy that helps this song is the fact that the key is the same to start this song. I kind of dig that sometimes whenever album does that, where the key that the last song ended on starts the next one. I kind of do appreciate that, and that happens here. But tempo-wise, we're back to up-tempo. And not only that, we're back to what I would consider to be interesting lyrics, or at the very least an interesting premise. Because Close to Crazy, again, for being sort of boilerplate lyrics, was also a boilerplate scenario. We've talked about songs like that before on the show, where it's just like, I'm not over you, and this is how. And it's just like, okay, cool, yeah, we've talked about that. But here you get a song where you get the story of a girl who is very much, I would assume she's probably in high school or maybe early college, and she's seeing this guy who is, a little bit older, and everyone in this town thinks that this guy is a sex-crazed dick who just thinks with his pants, wants nothing more than to make himself happy. But she is like, no, this guy, I got pictures of him, and I'm calling him on the telephone back when people did that with cords. And I'm just head over heels over this guy. And everyone else is saying, oh, no. And Reba is sort of being the narrator of the story rather than being in the story, which I thought was a kind of interesting perspective. Yeah. And it's just so weird to hear a song like this where it's just clearly obvious that the guy is sort of seen as this man devil, and she's just like, oh, well, I love him, so you can all, keep your opinions. It's almost tragic in a sense, and I kind of dug that. Not that I dig when people are in situations like that, but as a fictional plot point for a piece of art, I'm very much down for it. And I think what also helps that along is, once again, Reba's vocal. Not just the performance itself, which is always good, but like I talked about on The Fear of Being Alone, it feels like her vocal has a bit of situational awareness and empathy in it. Like, you could hear her voice and think, okay, this sounds like a woman that, even though she's not in the story, she has been in the past. She has been in the story. And very possibly she could be one of the townspeople saying, no, girl, he ain't the one. So I very much appreciate that. And I appreciate the instruments on here too. And honestly, I would put this at a cut track territory. It was close. I didn't think about this song until, my final listen. I was like, wait a minute, this song's actually really good. This song has just a driving energy. It has almost like a sitcom feel to it. You could picture this being an episode of Reba or Seventh Heaven or, God forbid, Seinfeld or Full House. But that's aside the point. The point being, this track rules. It's a good song.
I'm right there with you, dude. And I actually think I'm a little bit higher on the track than you. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it's interesting that I didn't really clock the whole townsfolk basically crapping on this guy in the story. And while you were giving your dissection, I actually missed it, kind of coming out of the gate. So that's shame on me, man. I need to be better, man. But anyways, yeah, I really was caught up in the storytelling elements of the song. And yeah, this is part of growing up. You come across, love where like it's clearly bad for you, and like people who are outside of the relationship see that you're going for a heartbreak. But I think like the crux of the song can be really found within the verse of like when Reba's singing about daddy knows his baby's headed for a heartache. Like that is basically kind of like the crux of the whole message of the song. Outside of the lyrics though, like I actually found the instrumentation here to be pretty solid, and it was a tremendous bounce back compared to like the Close to Crazy. So there's that. But yeah, things just feel so much bouncy with the fiddle and the acoustic guitar, and like honestly, like if you think about the context of the song with being in love and like that kind of like young and freeing feeling that the song's trying to go for, that's probably by design, honestly, and I tip my cap to that. The halftime switch in the second verse was a nice touch. I did very much appreciate that. The chorus was decent. Reba's vocals were solid. And also, one section I specifically did like was the bridge where the instrumentation gets gutted and Reba's just singing the thesis statement of the song. So yeah, I guess I should reveal another thing about like my reveal another card here with this review. In that she's calling it love, I'm calling it my second favorite track off the whole record.
Second favorite track. So, if I'm not mistaken, does that complete your top three, or do we have one more to go?
Oh, one, I didn't reveal like my cards, and the cards that I've revealed so far are a top two and a bottom two. Will the next two tracks fall into either category? I mean, I guess we're gonna find out. But like that's a hand that I've played so far.
That's fair. That's fair. For some reason, I thought you had another track in your top three, but I must have missed that somewhere. But that's aside the point. So yeah, we have a top two and a bottom two from you so far. I've already revealed my top three. And yeah, like this again, you mentioned it. It's good storytelling, is what this is. Like it's not like complicated storytelling. Like this isn't Bob Dylan talking about the Jack of Hearts. Like that was a story. But this, for what it is, being country politan sound, it's very good, solid storytelling. That being said, the next track, the penultimate track off the whole album, as opposed to side A, is Just Looking for Him. And Ryan, are you the him that is being looked for?
Always, man. You need to be looking for me everywhere, man. For inspiration, for perspiration, for dissection. No, I'm just gonna stop myself right there. So for Just Looking for Him, this song is fine. Honestly, we kind of like we do get like for better for worse, we get back into the boilerplate country home base feel of the album with this track here. However, I will say, before you start making bear noises over there and your side of the world, I do dig the concept of the song, and the storytelling elements are solid. So that's what probably saves it from being like another bottom track for me. So the hold your horses, man. So, but yeah, talk about the story. I feel like the story is basically like heartbreak, living in the ghost of a relationship, and just not being able to move on with your life. And I thought that was pretty cool. Executed pretty well. And the lyrical highlight that I did have in the track was she searched other faces, trying to find that spark, but no one new can reach her or fill her hollow heart. And I do have a critique about that lyric though, which is interesting. I don't want to say it's a lyrical highlight, but it does illustrate like the message of the song. Like that whole, but no one new could reach her heart or feel her hollow heart. Like that could have been trimmed down maybe a little bit. Like that almost seems like redundancy for the sake of redundancy. But yeah, just the other things about the song though, like the little like string parts that you get in the second verse were a nice touch. So it's better if you listen and if you pay attention, because like if you just put it on the background while you're doing dishes or like praying to Allah, like you're not gonna like catch it. Like I hate to say it, like you need a good pair of earphones or like whatever your audio like device is. But yeah, like the song does ride the course pretty hard. Like Reba does do a good job here vocally, but honestly, like, do you feel like you wanted a little bit more vocally from Reba here?
Honestly, not really. Like, I thought her voice was fine on the song. Again, it does. Here's my theory about it, because I'll go into my thoughts about the song. My theory is this: this song is basically the same exact song as "Close to Crazy" thematically. The only difference, well, there's a couple differences, but the biggest difference is that Reba is singing this from the third person. She is not the one being close to crazy. She is observing this. She is telling the story, like you said, which does elevate the song a tiny bit. What also helps elevate the song a little bit is the fact that the situations in this song, in my personal opinion, are more interesting than they are on Close to Crazy. Because with Close to Crazy, you get the idea of, being at a table and talking to someone who's not there and just holding your pillow at night and grabbing for air. He's a pony, didn't even know it. But here you have much more crazy situations, particularly being distracted in the workplace, and my personal favorite, being distracted while driving. Like the lyric that goes, she keeps one eye on the road and one on the other lane, looking for his car, his memories replayed. Like, that's not, like, romantic loss. That's dear stalker behavior. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of bold for a song like this. But at the same time, the fact that it's in third person, to go back to your point about wanting more from Reba's voice, I think as the storyteller in a song like this, you do lose a little bit of that emotional connection. Like, here she realizes she's telling a story about someone who's lost a love, not being someone who's lost a love. So I think maybe in her brain she realized that and dialed it back just a hair on the delivery front. Like, I think her voice sounds great on this track, but it isn't necessarily a standout performance, because this overall is not a standout song. It's fine. It's an album track. It exists. C'est la vie.
Yeah, and I did clock the driving lyric as well. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, like kudos to you for pulling that out. And I don't have a reason to. I feel like we covered Just Looking for Him pretty effectively. So I say that we close out this review by talking about the closing track, because it'd be kind of weird if we were like, we're gonna close out the review with the opening track, because we're gonna bring it all back, we're gonna run it back, man. But yeah, with the closing track here, Never Had a Reason to, I felt like I'm just gonna did you feel like this was a decent way to close off the record here?
Kind of.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. So here's my thing. I'll start with the positives for Never Had a Reason to. First of all, the music on this track sounds excellent. And it sounds refreshing compared to two of the last three tracks being, like you said, boilerplate ballads. Like, to hear this, like, the guitars particularly almost sound bluesy in their deployment. Like, it sounds like this could almost be something you could hear on, like, Latter-day Skynyrd or Latter-day Allman Brothers or Derek Trucks or, hell, I don't even know, My Morning Jacket I'll throw out there as possibly a band that could play like this. But my nitpick about this track is not Reba's vocals, because I think her vocals sound very, very nice on here. It's the lyrics. And for the record, the writers of these lyrics are, once again, Tim Nichols and Mark D. Sanders. And here's what I don't really like about them. It's not that the lyrics are bad, it's that they're preachy. they're really preachy, particularly on the first two verses, because the first verse is about Reba saying, all these people who grew up and, settled in the suburbs and had a couple of kids, good for them, but not for me. And then you get to the second verse where the protagonist of the song, because again, Reba is playing the part, she is not the part, is talking about how, she got to LA and figured, hey, I'm going to live the Hollywood lifestyle. And then she was talking about good girls getting out of control, ending up selling their souls. And I heard that, I was like, okay, hold on. Are we really doing this right now? Are we really taking the holier than thou route at the end of the album? After all these stories about, being wise, you really got to take this victory lap? Come on. So, and again, not the same situation as if she would write this herself, although it kind of sounds like she might have read this and be like, yeah, that's kind of me, I guess. And then the rest of the song is a complete pivot from that, where it turns into a love song about how she's never had a reason to fall in love, and she's just a strong, independent woman until, hey, you're cute, you seem cool, I like you. And that's a little bit of a typical country bait and switch, that's fine, but whatever. But honestly, if not for the really good instrumentation on the song, I probably would have had this as my bottom track, because it just frustrated me that much. But yeah, the music saves this, and very much puts in the category of very good song if you're not paying attention.
Oh man, so like throughout this review, you've actually been the one you've been a little bit more critical about the lyrical content than I have. So I dig that, man. I dig that, because like sometimes within the lyrics like this, I don't really mind it, and like I really. I mean, I did enjoy the storytelling elements about the song, but if you were to ask me if I had a lyrical highlight, I would be lying to you if I said that I did, because I don't. It's nothing really bad in my opinion, but it's still it's so good. Like it gets the job done, and one moment that I did appreciate within the context of the lyrics and their interaction with the instrumentation is at the end of the chorus where Reba's landing on the word love, and you get like a nice it almost seems like she's landing on that word, and you get the swell of the instrumentation. Like that was a nice swell moment, and just the overall I really can't add too much more to what you already said. Like the instrumentation's doing like a swing country beat, for lack I'm just gonna call it swing country beat, and I kind of dig it. It's a nice break from what we've heard through the darkest moments of this LP, but yeah, it's pretty good, and hats off. We've reached the closing track here, and Reba's just such a phenomenal vocalist. Like she really is a fantastic singer. Like her vocals here are solid, and I very much appreciate what she's sung here throughout the whole record. Maybe outside of I would rather ride along with you, because but that wasn't no fault by her design. It was just too many lyrics. She wasn't able to keep up and deliver an impactful punch there. But yeah, I just found Never Had a Reason to be a decent way to close off the record. I will say that it kind of just, I don't know, kind of meanders on the point after a while, because yeah, we get it. You are not like the other girls. You decided to do your own thing, and you are a strong, independent woman. Somebody who believes in feminism and empowering women on a day in, day out basis. I get that, but yeah, you don't have to beat the drum home and until the cows come home, for lack of a better descriptor. But yeah, with Never Had a Reason to, I'm actually putting it in the good song bucket. It's a decent way for the album to end off.
And I respect that. Yeah, again, if it weren't for my thoughts to the lyrics, I probably would put it in the same category, because again, the music's just so good on this track. You talk about it being sort of a country swing. I would also call it modern Southern rock or a beer commercial blues. Something in that category. Like it's got that sort of swift and ease of like just it's a sunny blues. Sunny blues is probably what I would call it, like a sunny bluesy vibe. And those are two words that should not go together, but in this case they kind of do. And if you listen to this album and you listen to this track, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I would say like those words work together very well, and yeah. Speaking of words that work well together, not two words, but three words. But those three words come after the realization that the dear listeners out there has realized that we've had 10 tracks up. 10 tracks have been smacked down. They've been put to bed. Our scorecards have been filled out, and for those of you who have been paying attention, my scorecard officially does hold a top two and a bottom two. I think the first time in a Hey Listen to This history, if I'm not mistaken. So there's only three words left to say.
Before I say those three words, I'm pretty sure that's the first time that you've ever pulled that off. But yes, there are three words left to say. We did it.
We did it, man. We went up to Reba McEntire and we asked her, what if it's you? And she said, don't say those words. That's just the fear of being alone. But I'm going to go first with my overall thoughts and ratings about the record. So, for me, it's interesting always come to reviews like this because, again, I didn't grow up with this music. It's not for me. And there's moments where I truly do struggle with what the home base of this music can bring to the table, a la Close to Crazy. And the other song that was just a misfire in execution, which was I Would Rather Ride Along With You. That was just a misfire. And there's also a handful of tracks where it's just yeah, there's good moments, but maybe a year from now, am I going to be able to say, hey, The Fear of Being Alone? That's a good track. You should listen off to that record. Or, Never Had a Reason to. Is that a good track? I don't know. Listen to, State of Grace or listen to tracks, a track like She's Calling It Love. I feel like those are the tracks that I'm walking away from the review identifying as the top tracks off the record, obviously because they land in my top two. But outside of that, we get a lot of mushy metal, and I feel like overall with What If It's You by Reba McEntire, it's worth a listen. But for most people, I would claim that it's not going to be a repeat listen. It's worth spending once. So lack of a better segue or to eliminate any vamping here on my overall review, I'm gonna give What If It's You by Reba McEntire a 6 out of 10.
So for me on this review, see, again, I come from the era of 90s country being really great, and I hear this album and I don't hear a single bad note on it. But at the same time, that's the point. It's so streamlined, it's so calculated, it's so very obviously meant to be a country album with country songs by a country singer featuring country instrumentalists to sell at a country music store in the country music capital of the world. That's what it's meant to do. And it did. It did. It was very successful. People bought it. I myself rebought it, as is evidence here. But at the same time, I can't really look at this and say this is a pristine, perfect album. Because there are things on it that did rub me the wrong way. Like the lyrics on I'd Rather Ride Around With You or Never Had a Reason to. Stuff that's very boilerplate, like the two ballads in the back half of the album. And even though the highlights for me, like the performance on How Was I to Know, or The Fear of Being Alone, or State of Grace, are just top notch, and I like more the album than I don't like it. I can't really look at this album compared to something that we talked about last week and say that this is more adventurous, more innovative, more worthy of repeated listens. But that being said, I probably will listen to it again just because I like the album and I like the way it sounds, and I own it, so I might as well listen to it. But I will say that compared to other Reba McEntire albums, this probably just fits in line. Like, it's not something that super stands out, it fits in line. So that being said, I'm going to give What If It's You a relatively solid, but pretty middle of the road, 7.5 out of 10.
I can respect that, man. I can respect that. So, your 7.5 and my 6 average out to be a 6.75 out of 10 because I went to college and
Math
works for everybody. It's just numbers, man. Don't take it personal. So for me, I could have easily copped out in terms of, choosing a next album recommendation. Like, I've typically in reviews like this, I recommend a Waxahachie album or just a typical indie country artist. But, I'm going to actually stick within the lane of country itself. And I remember that there was a record that was released last year that I did appreciate from a country artist, a female country artist at that being Brandi Carlile. And, yeah, I just revisited it today. And, I actually discovered that, I still like it. So, for those of you who aren't aware of what that album was, it is Returning to Myself, and like I illustrated, it was by Brandi Carlile. Solid country album from last year. Pretty good album. I recommend it wholeheartedly. So, yeah, what about you, Matthew? What album are you going to throw out to the listener for a next album recommendation?
First of all, I will say I need to listen to more Brandi Carlile because I keep hearing that name and I just she sounds very acclaimed and I need to dig her more. But for me, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to recommend another Reba McEntire album. I could very easily recommend either of her greatest hits packages from the late 80s or mid 90s, but instead I'm going to go with an album from 1991, and that is the album For My Broken Heart. Has a few big singles on that, particularly the title track, Is There Life Out There, which is one of my favorites, also The Greatest Man I Never Knew, and the aforementioned cover of The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, which, even though it didn't hit the top 10, I still really like that too. So yeah, I would recommend that for any listener out there. For My Broken Heart by Reba McEntire from 1991.
So, dear listener out there, to summarize the review, we gave What If It's You by Reba McEntire on an average score 6.75 out of 10. I recommended Returning to Myself by Brandi Carlile as the next album recommendation if you're looking for something else within my wheelhouse, for my limited expertise on country music, I guess. And then Matthew recommended For My Broken Heart by the same artist that we covered here today. So yeah, we did it, man. Step 1 into Women's History Month of 2026.
Yeah, and I'm glad we talked about this because, again, I know a lot of people dig Reba and a lot of people have listened to her music for years, and I figured it was time to give her some due. And not only that, but we haven't done country in a while, but I'm glad we did, sort of share our perspectives on it. So that was my first foray into Women's History Month, and Ryan, I now throw it to you. What are we going to talk about for round 2?
All right, for round 2, we're going to have... We have 2, I guess, Titanic albums up for consideration. So, before I give you the context... before I'm just going to have you pick a number, and then I'm going to have you... I'll let you know the context, and I'll let you guess what the album is that we're doing next week. So... I'm going to have you pick between the numbers 38 or number 1.
Oh. Okay. All right. I think I have a guess as to what number one is. So I'm gonna go with number one.
All right. So before I let you know about the context of how you chose our next review, what do you think we're going to be covering next week?
The only thing I could think of is a list that had this album at number one. It was by a female artist. I believe it was an Apple Music playlist. So my guess, and as I see you nodding, and this is probably where we're going with this, are we going to be discussing the miseducation of Lauryn Hill?
Yeah, motherfucker. We are going to be discussing the miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill next week, man. You nailed it, man. You knew what I was. You knew what I was picking, man. You know how I was choosing.
I did, and I think I think the reason for it because I almost recommended this album myself at one point based on that same criteria, but I'm very glad that we'll be talking about it now because this one's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah, it's an album that I've always wanted to dive into fully. So yeah, dear listener out there, if you've never listened to The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill, make sure that you do so before next week's review. That way you can have opinions about the album that we're going to be covering next week on Hey Listen to This, and then you can have opinions about the opinions that me and Matt are going to be bringing to the table. Yeah, so yeah, I know that I was with this review here, man. I know that we disagreed on some aspects of it, and you were higher on the album than I was, but I just hope that you can afford me a state of grace.
Always, my man. Always.